From our studios at historic Arnold's Park Amusement Park, it's Okoboji Broadcast with Jeff Thee. Welcome to Okoboji Broadcast, everybody. What a great weekend coming up here in the Iowa Great Lakes. I'm Jeff Thee, coming from our studios right here at Arnold's Park Amusement Park. With me is a good friend of mine, Mr. Terry Klein. We've performed together. I've known him since right when I moved here, and it's just
about birth.
And it's good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in.
Good to see you. It's been a long year.
Yeah, boy, everyone's had a long year, haven't they?
Absolutely. We all got to have these.
Yep, got our, and it's nice Iowa rock and roll. Had nice little masks we could wear during this thing. Well, I wanted to come in, and some of my favorite interviews to do are with just human interest, people that we've known in the area, and they're there, you know some of what they do, but you don't know the whole story. So. Sure. I want to talk to you about your career. Okay. I know you grew up in Fort Dodge.
That's right. The first band I was ever in was called Terry Klein at Teardrops. And that was a little group that I put together when I was probably 14, maybe, something like that. And we played for Y dances and school things, and we weren't very good at all. We had a bass player that just used a regular guitar and just played the lower strings, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then from there was a group in Fort Dodge called the Cervelles.
Okay.
Well, they were more of a like a Ventures type group. They only sang about 3 or 4 songs the whole night. Most of it was instrumental. Well, I was mowing lawns at a Trax gas station, and a car pulls up, and the guy says, "You're Terry Klein, aren't you?" I says, "Yeah." He said, "Would you ever be interested in singing with a band?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I might." So he gave me some of the things they wanted me to do, and so I said, "Well, I have to ask my folks." Well, my dad had bands in the area for years and years and years.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my dad came from, he had 9 brothers and 2 sisters.
Okay.
And all of them played, but 6 of them had a band called the Klein Brothers in Fort Dodge, around that area, and they played at KAYL station in
radio
Lake.
There, yeah.
And they played there for, probably 4 or 5 years, I suppose, something like that.
What type of music?
More country swing, that
Okay.
kind of thing. They had steel guitar and upright doghouse bass.
Yeah,
and guitars and sing and that kind of, and a fiddle. One guy played fiddle. My uncle Chick played fiddle.
Okay.
And then they would do also, before they started doing all the shorts for movies, movie theater.
Sure.
They would play on the stage, in front of the screen before and sometimes during, if it was a double feature. They'd play.
My goodness.
Yeah. And so anyway, I asked my dad, and he said, sure. So I started with the Cervelles, and I was with them, I suppose a couple of years maybe. And it was while I was with them that we came up to Okoboji when Darrell Olson was running the Roof Garden.
Okay.
And we came up for a battle of the bands. And we went up against a group called the Village Stompers. And they were from Cedar Rapids.
Okay.
And they did. They stomped us.
They stomped you good?
They stomped us good. We were a decent garage type band.
Yeah.
These guys were real polished. They had a couple horns and all that. But I didn't know this, that at that show was John Senn.
No
And
kidding.
we went back to Fort Dodge, and we were playing some little clubs around there. And we were playing at a place called the Gay 90s.
Okay.
And mostly Friday and Saturday nights. And John Senn and Naomi and let's see, Bob Godberson.
Yep.
The 3 of them came down there and saw the group, because John had asked Darrell Olson. He said, "Who's that guy singing up there?" So he told him. He said, "I think his name's Terry Klein from Fort Dodge."
Okay.
So that's how that kind of thing happened.
Now, was this after he had Iowa Great Lakes recording?
Oh yeah, they had. That's
so after Peter Rabbit, or
right. This was just about in that same time.
Okay.
Because what John said, he came up and asked me on the break. He said, "Would you be interested in being a mystery guest with DJ and Runaways?" Well, I had heard of DJ and Runaways, of course.
Sure.
And I said, "Well, yeah, I'd love to." So they brought me up to Fox Lake Ballroom, or Hands Park, or something like that up here. And I did, John said, "Well, we have a mystery guest." And so I came out on the stage and did, I suppose, 3 or 4 songs.
Right.
And everybody was looking like, yeah, he's a mystery. Who is it? You know, because they didn't know me from Adam.
It's a real mystery.
Absolutely. So then John got in touch with me, and he said that Denny Kinsey and Gary Lynn were two of the guys in the DJ and Runaways.
Right.
They were both in the Guards. So they wanted to know if I would be able to sing, like during the summer when they had to go away for a month, if I could take one of their places.
Right.
So they could fulfill
Step in
their
so
job.
they could do their
Sure.
duty. Right.
Well, in the meantime, they had asked Rusty Davis, who I later become a partner with,
Right.
if he would play keyboards, because Denny Kinsey was going to leave and go to Guards also.
Okay.
So that's how we met. And the way that Rusty and I met was kind of funny. I was from Fort Dodge and he was from Newell, Iowa, and their band kind of came out of Storm Lake.
Okay.
Silver-haired Beachnicks. So anyway, they had bands in Carroll, Iowa, on Sundays.
Right.
So a lot of guys would go over there if they weren't playing. They go over there. You know, a lot of pretty good crowds all the time.
Sure.
So I thought I'd just go over and see the group. So I drove over to Carroll, and so I see this guy across the dance floor. He's got on Beetle boots and black pants and a leopard skin jacket and silver hair, and that was one of their things.
Oh my.
was the
Okay. Silver hair.
So I think that's got to be Rusty. I had seen the band once.
Okay.
You know, and they were pretty up and coming group. They were very innovative. They had the silver hair and the jackets and all
Right.
that. And they had done a couple of things. They backed up Sonny and Cher in Omaha.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they done some pretty big stuff.
Yeah, big gigs.
So I walked over and I said, "Are you Rusty Davis?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'm Terry Klein. I guess we're going to be working together with DJ and Runaways." He said, "Yeah," and turned around, walked away. And I thought, I got to work with this guy for a long time. So that's how we kind of got together. And what happened is Rusty and I played, I think, 2 summers with DJ and Runaways for the same reason, for the Guard thing.
Sure.
And then John just decided to make the group bigger, and we stayed.
And just stayed with it then.
Stayed with him. And
So you were part of DJ and the Runaways.
part
then.
of DJ and Runaways.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so then, you know, we went on those tours we did in the summertime. Went up to Canada most of the time and did a lot of gigs up there.
Sure. Now, did they have we were so prolific with ballrooms
Oh yeah.
in the Midwest.
Yep.
Did they as
It
well?
was mostly ballrooms.
Okay.
The biggest share of them. In fact, we had one was in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan.
Yep.
And it was a skating rink. Well, in the middle of the skating rink, they had a stage.
Oh, wow.
And what we did is we set up all the amplifiers and we turned them on their backs so that the sound would go up and then it came around. Anyway, we did that with the Prince in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, and did that show, and it was a lot of fun. You know, it was just everybody was. In fact, they would walk around, and when you started a song, then they'd stop and dance.
Oh, really?
And they'd walk around and stop and dance, and it was pretty weird.
It's unusual,
Yeah,
but
very
I can
unusual.
see where it'd be a lot of fun too.
Yeah. And so then we joined the group for good, and then things went on, and pretty soon the band was like 8-10 pieces at that time, big group.
Horns and everything.
Oh
at
yeah,
that time?
had Mike DeVos was playing sax.
Okay.
Ron Schuler's playing trumpet. Rusty played trumpet.
All right.
I wasn't playing any trombone yet then.
Okay.
In fact, I wasn't playing anything. I was just singing.
Just singing.
Let's see. And then there was a spin-off group called the Sin Men.
Yep.
Okay, after DJ and Roy was kind of fizzled, or not fizzled, but just kind of disbanded.
Right.
And Sin Men were pretty good group for a long time. We used to play the Macamba Club over in Sioux Falls.
Sure,
And some groups,
yeah.
you know, things like that.
Yep.
Had a great drummer with us named Tommy Gordon, and he was from Des Moines. And then after he left us, he went with a group called Chase.
Okay.
And played with them, and there was a spin-off group from the Sin Men, and this was just about the time I went to the service. It was called The Bag, and this is pretty funny how this happened. Was Tom Gordon and Rusty and Ron Schuler and myself. We decided we're going to go and start this group called The Bag. Well, Rusty and Tommy, they started the group. And
How'd you come up with the name?
there was a Magic Bag.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of in that psychedelic type thing. So
Gotcha.
they just wanted to call it
That
Bag.
era, okay.
So found a bass player who lived he's from Chicago, can't even remember his name. He was with us for about 27 miles. We dropped him off just on the other side of Chicago on the highway.
Right.
But anyway, we hooked up with a guy named Wayne Cochran.
Okay.
CC Riders. He was a guitar player for him.
Oh, wow.
So our first job was at the Hollyoak in Indianapolis. Top showroom. I mean, a top showroom.
Right.
And we're going to trade sets with Sam and the Sham and the Pharaohs.
Oh my gosh.
And this is a put together band. So fortunately, most of us had done a lot of the same material, like a lot of bands nowadays. And we get there and we rehearse 2 solid days with Tommy and the rest of the guys.
Wow.
And we go and we do the show and it comes off real good, and we played there a number of other times,
right.
you know. Well, in the interim, I get my draft notice, so I go, and they had a guy named Bobby Dark was his name, and he took my place, and he was a soulful dude, very soulful dude, and he didn't last too long because I think he had a record or some sort, whatever. Not a record.
Not a 45.
Yeah, not a 40. Well, he might have had a 45 too, because of the record. I don't know.
That may have been why he had a record.
But anyway, so I left from Chicago. We were playing Your Uncle's Mustache in Chicago, or Barnaby's, one of those places. You know, it was a little teeny club, and we were clear up on the top of it.
Right.
Just real neat places like that. So I came back and played a little while before I was, you know, with Denny Story and his band.
Okay.
For a little while before I went to the service.
And what branch were you in?
I was in the Marine Corps.
Oh, you're a Marine. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, they needed a few good men, and they decided to take me also. but anyway, so then I get to the service, and I came home on boot leave and got married.
Okay. Yeah.
To my wife Vicky, and got out of the service because of a medical situation.
Okay.
Came back to Spencer, Iowa, and Vic and I had a little apartment there. Worked for a cyanamide, Avco cyanamide company for a while.
All right.
And then in the interim, went to work with a group up in the cities through a guitar player that had worked with Giger and Runaways and Sandman and
Sure.
Gene Robinson. And he tracked me down and says, "Terry, you got to come up here." He says, "I think you'd like this band." And it was a house band.
Okay.
And they played at the Midway Shopping Center in St. Paul, and it was called the Hall of Fame. So I go up there, and bands was called the Tempters. Well, at that time, they wanted me to change my name. Instead of Terry Klein, it was Terry Kale. K-A-L-E.
Really?
So there were 3 guys that I signed a contract with. The owner of the nightclub, and it was a bowling alley and nightclub. Bowling alley was downstairs.
Okay.
And then there was 2 other guys. There was a chiropractor and another businessman from Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. And I signed a contract with them, and I mean we did a lot of neat stuff, and I was there for probably about a year and a half, something like that.
All right.
And then Rusty got a hold of me, and since the bag had broken up, he had joined a group called the Ups and Downs.
Ah.
That's where that
and this is where the Ups and Downs comes
right.
in.
And
okay.
so he had joined this group, and he was with them for about 6-8 months, something like that.
Okay.
And he said, "Terry, you got to come." He says, and that group spun off of a group called the Swingin' Lads.
Oh, wow.
Swingin' Lads were a group that did they did 2 Oriental tours. They did a couple of Dean Martin shows.
Wow.
I mean, they were a kind of a vaudeville type act.
Okay. All right.
Great musicians. They had a guy, Jimmy Carsey, who was a bass player, a guitar player, Barry sax player, did all the choreography. Just
wow,
really hot. Well, he used to date Goldie Hawn, you know, back in the day.
That's good credentials there. Yeah.
Jimmy Dale was a Irish tenor, just awesome.
Yeah.
They had just really good people. And so what had happened is that band was kind of breaking up. A lot of bands did that over the years.
Yeah.
You'd have one band have 50, 60 members in it over years.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, the Rusty And the sax player, whose name was Emmanuel Molokakis, and his stage name was Manny Paris.
Ah, okay.
He was a Greek, little Greek guy, great player,
Yeah.
just a super player. They decided to form a new band, and they were going to call it the Ups and Downs.
Okay.
So anyway, he says, I want you to come down and audition for this band. He said, send me a tape so I can have Manny listen to it.
Right.
So I sent him down a tape of, stuff. I was doing some Elvis stuff, and I was doing a lot of Tom Jones, and this kind of thing.
Sure.
So anyway, I sent it down there, and Manny said, no, he says, I want him singing. And Rusty says, that is him. So anyway, I go down to do an audition. And they were playing at the Lions Den in Dayton, Ohio. And that's how I met him.
Okay.
And I go in and I watch this band, and I'm going, because they were just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because it still had all the members, and they were splitting.
Okay.
Like I was right there in the middle of it.
Okay.
So I get down there, and I go up and set in for, I suppose I did a couple of 3 songs, and Manny said, they're all going, kind of looking like this. So I went to Manny's room the next morning and kind of talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
So I get there, and he says, we'd like to have you work with us if you'd like to. And told me all, what they're going to pay me and all this kind of thing. And he said, there's one thing, you're going to have to play trombone. And I says, I don't play trombone. He says, you do now. So I had to buy a trombone and learn how to, so I played, and I didn't read or anything, so they put down the valves that I'm supposed to, and I bought a valve trombone instead of a slide.
Okay.
So that's how I started playing trombone.
I'll be
And
darned.
then I had to do all this choreography steps that they had, because openers and closers and all this kind of stuff.
That's a lot of learning.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, I got that and went with the group, and that lasted a pretty good while. We were doing, most of the jobs we were doing were on the East Coast.
Okay.
We were in Toronto and Canada and Buffalo, New York, and on down Connecticut and just all over the place.
All right.
Down to, and then we did some stuff in Memphis. One of the craziest jobs, we were playing at the Flicks in Boston. Great club. They had an Olympic-sized swimming pool right in the middle of the place.
Oh, cool.
So we played there on New Year's Eve. And we opened on the 3rd of January in Riverside, California at the Dunes.
Oh, wow.
It was like, drive.
I was going to say,
Drive.
that's a bit of a hike.
Oh boy, it was unbelievable. We did a few of those, I'm going, doesn't this agent have a map?
Yeah.
There's got to be something between here, clear across the country, 3,400 miles.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So
you had to take turns driving and driving straight through. There'd be no.
Well, I used to drive. Rusty used to ride with me a lot in the van, and so I'd drive for 20 hours, and I'd say, Rusty, can you take over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he'd be sleeping. He'd sleep standing up.
Oh, okay.
So he'd be sleeping, so he'd take over, and it wasn't 5 miles down the road doing this thing and hanging his head out the window, I'm going, just pull over, I'll drive,
That makes you feel safe.
Yeah, exactly. But then, so then Ups and Downs was doing well, and Rusty and I kind of took the band over together and worked a long, long time as a 5 to 6 piece band.
Okay.
And then we decided when the gas prices really started getting tough, they was about 75 cents a gallon.
Uh-huh. Which at the time,
unbelievable. Because everybody's driving their own vehicles.
Yeah.
We decided we got to find a place to kind of base out of. So hooked up with a gentleman up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Both got apartments.
Mm-hmm.
Vic and I were married, and Rusty and Angie had their son Sean.
Right.
And so we got apartments, and he had 2 clubs, two like steakhouses. He had one on Blue Mountain Road, and then he had another one out by the airport.
Oh, okay.
So what we were going to do is, our plan was to work like 26 weeks a year between those 2.
Okay.
And then go to Vegas and work other places.
Right. Okay.
Well, that all went real well, and we were doing terrific, and the place was going crazy, both of them. And then he got a divorce.
Oh.
And his wife got everything.
Ah.
And she sold it, and the guy that bought it didn't want us.
Yeah.
So there we are.
And that was the end of the.
And this
those
is how
gigs.
This is how we come back to Okoboji.
And this brought you back home. Okay.
This was 1974. So in '74, we get out of Milwaukee and we come to Okoboji because we both said, where do we go that we know, because we'd played here a lot. We're both from the area.
Right.
So we come back down here and it's just two of us. And we have all this knowledge of what to do for a show band, and there weren't very many show bands around this area at that time.
Right.
We didn't have a band. You know, Rusty played bass, I was playing guitar at that time,
Yep.
and trombone, he played trumpet. Singing, we had lots of comedy stuff we could do.
Yeah.
So we get back to Okoboji, and Rusty buys a mobile home, and he's at Smith's RV Center.
Sure.
And Vic and I rented a house on Pioneer Beach on East Lake. And so we're doing pretty good. We got to find a band. So we'd heard about this group called George.
Okay.
So we go to Sioux Falls to see him. And the group consisted of George Arnold on drums,
Okay.
Bob York on keyboards,
All right.
Kevin Kidd on guitar.
Okay.
And good three-piece, good vocals, good musicians. So we present this deal to them. Would you like to be our backup group? You know, we'll do the shows, back us up for our shows. You do the dance sets. We'll pay the least what you're making, or maybe even a little more, because we can, you know, Rusty's a pretty good booker.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So they said, sure, let's give her a shot. So that's how that came to be. And first gigs we had were at Ripley's, believe it or not, in Sioux Falls, which is right over downtown, around by Earl's Pizza and
Okay.
down in that area.
Down that area,
you know,
yeah.
and the Holiday Inn downtown. In fact, we played there too.
Sure.
You know, and ran that for, oh boy, a good while. And then George, I don't know, I can't even remember how that happened, but George left the group, and we got a drummer by the name of Gary Swanson,
Okay.
he was from the Sioux Falls area. He was a teacher, and he also was a drummer for Myron Lee and the Caddies.
Okay. Sure.
So Gary came with us then, and then John Mogan worked with us for a while, and he's got Mogan's Heroes. They're still going.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just been a ride.
Yeah.
You know, and a half, and everything's been terrific. And then some things happened. We had a club for a while called the Outrigger. Mm-hmm. Ran that for about 8 years. We'd work there all summer, and then play out during the wintertime. You know.
Right.
Then there was a time when Rusty and I were gonna do another club, and it was called the Okoboji Club, and that was in right up on 71 across from the hospital. It was a restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Now it's a church.
Oh, I know where it's at then.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
yeah,
it
sure.
was a restaurant, and made it bigger, made a showroom, and worked that for a while. Well, then some things went belly up, and you know, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Rusty moved to Florida,
Okay.
and I went down with him.
Oh, you did. You went down.
I went
to
down, helped
Florida
him
with
move down there, and we did a couple of, you know, little sets, and it was so clicky that it would take forever to kind of get into being able to play. So I just came back up here,
Okay.
and that's where I went with Larry Stoller,
Oh yeah. Yes.
and went to Walter J's Lounge and started doing my single.
Okay.
That's where my single
That's when you started doing your
Yep.
single.
And I was using cassette tapes with a little cassette player
Yeah.
with a microphone hooked up to a little PA system I put together, and it went great.
Well, you
you know,
didn't have to worry about somebody not showing up or something.
absolutely.
That way.
But if somebody made a mistake, everybody knew who did it.
Yeah, well, that's right. And you guys played at the Bavarian Gardens a lot too, didn't you? With when Rusty was around, and
Well, no, that was our club above the Bavarian Gardens, which was called the Outrigger.
okay,
Bavarian Gardens was on the bottom,
right.
then the Outrigger, and then the what was the name of that? Max Corey had that restaurant. The restaurant was upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was kind of funny too, because I was cleaning the Outrigger one time, and a couple of gals came in. We weren't open during the daytime, as a rule. You know, we just did the shows at night.
Yeah.
And she said, "We'd like a couple of Bloody Marys, and we'd like to sit on your deck." And I said, "Well, we're not open." And I said, "We don't have a deck." "Well, yes, you do." And I said, "Well, no, ma'am, we don't have a deck."
Yeah.
"Well, it's right out." I says, "Watch your step," because the deck was below us. It was
It's
the
a
Bavarian
Lulu,
Gardens,
yeah.
But anyway, "Oh, I'm sorry." I said, "Well, that's fine. That's all right. You were a little hammered when you left here yesterday." But anyway, we had some great times.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Used to do the Gong Show, with college kids and that.
Yeah. Well, my wife used to, and she thought you were and this is before I lived here, when she was a kid, she'd go to the Emporium to listen to you and Rusty, and she always thought she was remembering as the Garden. So, it was the Outrigger. Okay. Yeah.
So it was the Outrigger, and then there was a group called the Cartwright Brothers.
Yes.
Used to play the Gardens all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
Yep.
But anyway, then I started doing my single, and then the rest is kind of history up until this time when we started doing Elvises and all that kind of thing.
Well, and we can't forget you've been inducted into the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on a couple different. For yourself.
I was inducted as a single, as a solo artist.
Yep.
And then I was also inducted with Ups and Downs.
Yeah. And South Dakota.
And then in South Dakota, Ups and Downs was inducted over there, which that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a neat honor.
My goodness. I mean,
absolutely.
Your body of work, and from when I think about, you weren't born here, you weren't raised here. You spent a lot of time for what you mean to this area, Terry.
It's been good. It's been real good. The area's been great to me, and the audience. I mean, there are people that live here, and they'll move away to California or Florida or wherever, and they always come back.
Yeah.
It's just they always come back. And you can hate the winter all you want to. Because I remember the times when there was nothing here after Labor Day. Mm-hmm. You could shoot a cannon down through here, wouldn't hit anybody.
Oh, sure. It was just like they found a drain on the lake and said, okay, turn off the lights and we'll see you in May.
And the amount of people went from bingo to nothing, and now it's way, because of, well, there's a lot of businesses now.
Right.
More businesses.
Yep.
The Winter Games has been a huge deal.
Well, now we have venues like the new Roof Garden that can house shows and everything.
What a job they did with that.
Yeah, 12 months out of the year, and I always think about when I first moved here in '90. A lot of clubs had DJs playing, spinning records at that time, and it was years later where all of a sudden, and Iowa Rock and Roll kind of played into it as well with. All of a sudden you started seeing more live acts, outdoor settings, and people coming to it.
Yeah,
they missed it.
Talking about the outdoor setting, Tom Torville and Becky
and Rebecca Peters.
Yes,
yeah,
they wrote that book, Green Space and all that kind of stuff, and I did a forward with it, and Tim Horseman did one, and I found out, and I didn't even remember this because we were just playing gigs, that I was like third or fourth in the amount of places around this area that I played, and it was just amazing.
Yeah.
And then the Dixieland Band was the number one, and I don't even remember them.
Isn't that amazing?
But I guess they were here.
Yeah, evidently. A lot.
So, but it's and the things that Tom's done for this area too, and John Sen, and just amazing people in this area, and they love music.
And they do.
They do.
And you see
people love music.
Thursday nights on Rock the Roof.
Absolutely.
When you can get 1,000 people every Thursday night when there's no pandemic, that helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's amazing because people appreciate, yourself as an artist. All the ones that came through the original Roof Garden, the ones that are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I remember when the Roof Garden came down and they were going to do a new one, and they had a slab over here. They just it was a concrete slab, put up chairs and I think, probably cinder blocks and planks or something.
Yeah.
Rusty and I did a show there. It was 1996, and it was the first actual, probably you could say it was probably the first Rock the Roof.
Yeah.
Because it was amazing,
Absolutely.
People just loved it,
Yeah.
And they come from all over the place. That's like the winter dance party that they do over in Clear Lake.
Yeah, absolutely.
People come here for the same reason.
Yeah, you're very right.
They do.
And I feel fortunate that I've had a chance to.
Yeah.
We had our first show doing Elvis together was in '97. It was the 20th anniversary when Elvis had passed, and that was in, I'll call it Roof Garden 2.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, and now we've had the chance to do Elvis shows in the existing Roof Garden.
Absolutely.
So it's just a treat, and
it's been good.
Yeah,
it's been good. Don't know if we'll do another Elvis, but You never can say never.
Never say never.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. As long as my legs have a little shake left.
Well, mine don't.
Yeah.
I had a little bout this winter with a little back surgery, but I'm coming back.
You're on the mend, and
I'm getting there. I might have to use a stool.
Yeah, well.
But whatever. Burl Ives did it, so I can do it too.
And my shaking is more involuntary than
You too, huh?
Yeah, I'm getting there. So, well, my friend, thank you for coming in, sharing.
Thank you very much. It's been
I learned a
pleasure.
lot. I've known you for how many years, and I've learned so much today.
I got a lot of secrets. In fact, I'll tell you one more thing.
Good.
There have been a lot of people that asked Rusty and I to write a book. I said most people wouldn't believe it, and there's a lot of things you couldn't put in it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. For the grandkids to read.
Great times. Wouldn't change any of it for nothing.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
So all good memories.
It's a treat. All right, my friend. Thank you again for coming in.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
And
go ahead.
And thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. My friend Terry Klein here with me today, and we want to thank him for taking time with us. We want to thank you for watching us right here on Okoboji Broadcast. Okoboji Broadcast from the studios at historic Arnold's Park Amusement Park is brought to you by the Scott Troutman State Farm Agency in Spirit Lake, Pure Fishing in Spirit Lake, Last Touch Painting and Cleaning providing interior, exterior, house painting and professional cleaning services in Spirit Lake, Quest Wealth Management, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, advisor Jan Spielman, AJ Spielman, and Erica Wachholz. Ducky's Marine and Motorsports Repair in Spirit Lake. Bank Midwest, dream big, plan wisely, live well. Lakes Regional Healthcare and Avera Partner. Attorney Bethany Brands at Brands Law Office in Spirit Lake. Ruthven Locker at the Lake, where carnivores are welcome on Hill Avenue in Spirit Lake. Beck Engineering in Spirit Lake. Be Radiant Laser Skin Studio in the Okoboji Plaza in Okoboji. The YMCA of the Okobojis is the Bedell Family YMCA, building strong families and strong communities.